Today is the day for one of the biggest videos of the offseason. Today, we are going to be going through every single NHL team, ranking their best prospect, and going from 32 all the way down to number 1, presented by BetUS. Now, how today's video is going to work is that I've gone through every team and selected the top prospect, and then I went through those 32 names and ranked them from the best to the worst to see who has the best top prospect and who has the worst. So today, we're going to be taking your favorite team's top prospect and putting them amongst the rest of the league to see where they might end up. So make sure you watch till the end as we go through the complete rankings with all the prospect talk, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey offseason content just like this all throughout. Now we're gonna waste no time getting into this thing, starting us out at number 32, and to me, the team that has the worst top prospect in the league, I'm gonna have to go with the Boston Bruins. Now, there's not much of a difference, I would say, between Lysell and Letourneau. In Lysell's case, he's somebody that has played pretty well at the pro level this last year, getting 50 points in 56 games, but I do think there is somewhat of an inconsistency issue there, and I don't hate Lysell at all. He's somebody that I liked quite a bit in his draft here, but among the top prospects in the league, I would say he's rather weak. In Lysell's case, I think he'll most likely top out as a pretty solid middle six piece rather than a top end one like other teams have. And in Letourneau's case, he's somebody that I think could be really solid, but is a big boomer bust project. And a project is understating it. Next up, going on to number 31, and we're actually going to go to a player here that was traded pretty recently. We're going to go to the Tampa Bay Lightning's top prospect in Connor Geekie. Now this, just like the Boston one, was pretty close. I could have gone for Isaac Howard, Dylan Duke. They're all up there. I would say Connor Geekie, though, provides the best potential out of all of them in terms of an overall game. Of course, was a part of the Mikhail Sergachev trade and really was the big piece going back to Tampa Bay. You can see at 6'4", 196 pounds, he's someone that I wasn't really the biggest fan of in his draft year, was a little bit individual, a little bit too offensive. He's somebody, though, that I think has gotten a little bit better over the course of his WHL campaigns, and this last year with Wenatchee, with Swift Current, was just a beast through and through, and he's somebody that in the AHL, I think will transition on pretty well. I think for Tampa, he's going to be a solid middle six, probably second line piece for them. Nothing spectacular, but still pretty solid. Next up, we go on to number 30, and actually on to the other Florida team here in the Stanley Cup champs in the Florida Panthers. To me, their top prospect is Mackie Simashev. Obviously, they're not going to have this insane cover, but I think their prospect pool is still pretty solid considering how competitive they've been. But in Simashevic's case, he's transitioned pretty solidly onto the pro level, being, of course, a University of Michigan alum. He, this last year in his first full AHL campaign, got 22 goals, 54 points in 62 games, which I think is about as good as he could have asked for. I still think he's a project to actually be a major piece considering how stacked Florida's forward group is, but I think once he's ready, he'll again be a very solid middle six piece and second liner, just like Geekie. Next up, we move on to number 29, and another player that was a part of a pretty surprising deal this offseason between Edmonton and Buffalo. We go into the Oilers' top prospect here in Matthew Savoie, and it kind of came out of nowhere, Savoie being dealt. From Buffalo's perspective, they had a lot of top offensive prospects. Savoie was one of them, and Edmonton really needed somebody like this to juice that prospect pool. Savoie will definitely do that. There are still some problems in terms of translatability that I do see in Savoie's game in terms of defensive play and work ethic around the boards, but this is still somebody that in terms of big offensive plays when you need it can make some electrifying moves, and you can see how good he's been in the WHL, how consistent of a player he's been there. He'll be playing his first full-time AHL season this next year, which I think will be good for him. Getting some AHL pro seasoning, I think, is exactly what Savoie needs, but this will be really the start of the big tests here. I think in Edmonton, though, they're in a position where they can shelter him pretty successfully, so we'll see how it goes. With the offense he has, I think Savoie will still be a pretty electrifying prospect there, no matter what. Next up on to number 28, and another offensive CHL forward. We go on to the Pittsburgh Penguins top prospect in Brayden Yager, and they have a couple other solid prospects there. I mean, you got the solid goaltending in Joel Blomqvist coming up, and also on the defensive side, Owen Pickering, but to me, Brayden Yager is for sure the best. He's somebody that I thought this last year had a pretty great, successful WHL campaign, 35 goals, 60 assists, 95 points, and was pretty underrated, I thought, for the Canadians at the U20 World Juniors this last year. He's somebody that also, I think, just really focuses on the offense. There is some defensive lapses there, but in terms of the shooting ability, in terms of getting in front of the net, I think Yager just has a good drive to the game, and I think that will lead to a lot of solid offensive success at the NHL level. Next up, we go on to number 27, and the Ottawa Senators top prospect, and they honestly could have been number 32. too if it weren't for this last NHL draft, and Carter Yakimchuk does boost them up quite a bit. Not obviously top 20, because of course I've documented on this channel how I'm not the biggest fan of Yakimchuk's defensive game, the lack of real acceleration in his skating, and I think that will hold him back as an offensive defenseman. But in terms of the confidence, the shooting ability, the power play wizardry, Yakimchuk can still do a lot offensively when he's put in the right position to succeed. I think he will be a good offensive defenseman for Ottawa, and even if I have some troubles with the overall game there, I think again, if he's in the right position, if he's given power play time, he'll be just fine. Now we go on to number 26, and this might be one of the hot takes of this video, not in terms of the team here. Next up I got the Colorado Avalanche, but in terms of the player, I think most people would probably assume that Callum Ritchie would be my pick here, but I'm actually going to go for Mikhail Gulyayev. Now, Callum Ritchie is right there knocking on the door. He had a great, successful OHL season this last year, but Gulyayev was somebody I liked quite a bit in his draft year and has done nothing but impress since then. He was towards the tail end of the first round in 2023, but he's somebody that since then has done very well for himself. After he got drafted, he had a full KHL campaign, getting 64 games, 12 points, and a pretty solid role in the KHL playoffs too. He was getting around 17, 20 minutes a night, which is nothing to scoff at, especially for a smaller defenseman. I think what I love about Gulyayev the most is the puck moving ability, the vision, and the speed at which he makes plays. That's something that I think was really complimented at the pro level in the KHL. The fact that he was able to make these smart, quick decisions offensively that just led to success. That's something that I think is very pro ready already. And even though there has been some adjustments defensively, and I don't think he's ever going to be this incredible physical presence, I think he's done well enough and is smart in the defensive zone to get the puck out, to play offensively. And I think he'll be a really underrated prospect here coming for Colorado. Will be a project for sure, but I think once he hits the NHL, could absolutely be a top 4D. Next we go on to number 25 in the Vegas Golden Knights, a team of I think a pretty underrated pool with some great goaltending in Carl Lindblom, some solid defense in Lucas Cormier, but to me the top prospect is still Trevor Connolly. In terms of pure offense, wizardry with the puck, Connolly reminds me a lot of what Trevor Zegras was able to do in his draft year. In Connolly's case, he was a 19th overall pick playing in the USHL for Tri-City, and he's somebody that offensively just brings so much creativity around the net, can just do anything he wants. I think there are some limits to his physical game and how much muscle there is there, that it will be something to improve on over the next few years. But in terms of pure offense, you can see what Connolly is able to bring, and that's an electrifying player to bring on to Vegas's pool. Next up, we move on to 24, and this was a really hard one for me to debate, to actually pick the top prospect with, and that is the New Jersey Devils. I was going between Seamus Casey and Anton Salaya back and forth, y'all. It was really a competitive race, but in the end, I decided to go with Anton Salaya. I think Seamus Casey blows Salaya out of the water in terms of offensive potential, in terms of deking ability, but I think Salayev could ultimately be the better overall player in terms of physical play, skating ability. We know what Salayev can bring, and I think there is potential for him to be a punishing defenseman. I think there's a lot of room that he still needs to go after, a lot of different detailed parts of the game that he really needs to shore up, but he's still extremely young, already getting KHL experience. I think he will be a great player for New Jersey, and just like Casey, will be potentially a top 4D. Next up here, number 23, we're going to go to the Winnipeg Jets here, and they're another team that has a lot of top prospects right around the same range. You got players like Colby Barlow, Rutger McGrody, even Alphonse Frey if you wanted to go for that, but to me still the top prospect is still Brad Lambert. It will never not be the GOAT Brad Lambert for what he's been able to do already at the AHL level. He's somebody that in his first pro season was able to play extraordinarily well, getting 21 goals, 55 assists for 64 points, was already pushing play and using that speed in a good direction. There are still details there that I want to see him improve on, and I think that is something that could hold him back from being on the NHL this next year, but I still think the offense potential is through the roof. With how fast he can be, if you're able to unlock that, you could get something pretty special here. Now we move on to number 22, and actually going on to the first goaltender of this list, and the first of a few. We got Yaroslav Askarov here from the Nashville Predators, another team like Winnipeg. I mean, you have Fyodor Svechkov, you could have Zachary Leroux, you could have Matthew Wood, Tanner Molendijk, you could even go for a Teddy Stiga or Igor Shorin if you wanted to. To me, though, Askarov is still the best. Even if you've heard his name in trade rumors and all that, I still think in terms of potential, in terms of the value he can bring, the electrifying play in Askarov is just too much to give up. An 11th overall pick by the Preds. He's somebody that's really found his groove, though, in the AHL. This last year had some great moments, some great streaks, and especially the wins and how consistent he was able to be. That was a big step forward. I do think Askarov deserves an NHL job up to this point, and it doesn't seem like Nashville's going to give it to him, so we'll see what ends up happening, but as long as he's in Nashville's system, he's still number 1. Now we go just outside the top 20, and next I'm going to go to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have a couple of pretty solid options, but to me, the obvious choice is Easton Cowan. For how much he's improved since his draft year, it's honestly impeccable. Another London Knights, great product there. Somebody that I'm very happy to be wrong about. He's somebody that is just an absolute firecracker on the ice in terms of energy, and the capacity that he has offensively has really grown over the past year. The intensity on the puck, the ability to get to the net. He's somebody that, although not the greatest World Juniors, to me took that necessary step in the OHL. There is still a little bit of concerns over how much potential there truly is, but I think in terms of the energy he'll bring, the speed there, you're going to get a lot of great plays out of him in the future. Now we're going to get into the rest of the top 20 here, but first I want to talk about today's sponsor in BetUS. And if you guys don't know about BetUS yet, now is the best opportunity to, especially the NHL season coming up. They got the best odds in the industry and so many opportunities to make picks throughout the NHL season. And even before then, they got an 125% sign-up bonus on your first year deposits up to $2,000. And there's so many things to make picks on for this next year. You got total points for former prospect Bedard. You also got Matvei Michkov, who we'll talk about in the future for sure. You got over and under points as well, 46.5. This one is interesting, and let me know down below what you guys think if you'll get over or under 46 points. You can also make picks on the division winners, the Stanley Cup winners, as well as the Calder Trophy as well. A lot of prospects that we'll talk about today on this list. If you're confident in them, this is the place to make your picks. And of course, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into it here with the top 20 range, and we're going to start it out here with Devon Levi of the Buffalo Sabres, another Atlantic Division team here, but in Levi's case, to me, he's the strongest that Buffalo has to offer. I've been pretty right about him up to this point. I thought that he wouldn't be ready for the NHL last year, and he wasn't. An .899 save percentage, but I thought in the AHL we'd see him get some seasoning, and he definitely did. He was great there, getting a .920 save percentage in 26 games with Rochester, and being pretty good in the playoffs too, with a .923 save percentage. I think this next year, though, we're going to see Levi back in the NHL, a lot more ready for the responsibility that it provides, but I think the progression in his game has just been so blissful to watch. The confidence he has is really going to, I think, aid him in the NHL and make him a starter someday. Next up, we're going to go into number 19 and the Carolina Hurricanes, another team that I have a lot of top prospects that I like quite a bit. So you got Bradley Nadeau, you got Jackson Blake, who's a favorite of mine, but to me, the best got to be Alexander Nikishin. With the progression that we've seen from him in the KHL, it's kind of hard not to bet for him. He's somebody that with the big size he has, the big shot, and the confidence he has in the blue line, there's a lot to like there, and I think he will absolutely be a fan favorite. I think there are times where his game can be a little bit simplistic, but he's already shown up well against the pros, and I think will be a very consistent top 4D for the Canes. Now we go on to the next pick here, the St. Louis Blues, and next up I gotta go to one of the better NCAA performers over the past couple of years in Jimmy Snuggerud, who, even if he isn't the highest drafted player in St. Louis' system, to me provides the most potential. Back in his draft year, I thought he was more of a Swiss Army knife two-way player, but he's somebody that in the NCAA has really brought an explosion in his shooting capabilities, in the confidence he has offensively, the prowess with his skating, and the strength that he has. He's really grown quite well, and with Michigan has just continued to play great. This last year, a little bit of dip in production, but goal scoring was still right there, and a solid World Juniors as well. Snuggerud is just a great piece, and they're going to be a good goal scoring top 6 forward for the Blues in the future. Next up, we go on to number 17, and officially the first player that was in my top 25 prospects list. Next up, we go to the New York Islanders and Cole Eiserman, and they finally have a great top prospect. I never thought I would see the day, but Cole Eiserman is a great one. He's, of course, a fantastic goal scorer. We know the confidence there. The physical play has also been a big improvement over the last year. There are holes there in terms of defensive positioning and knowing where to be, making the right decisions, but the goal scoring is so good. The confidence and the ability to drive to the net is so fantastic. He's going to be one to watch in the NCAA this next year because he could light it up over there. Now we're right at the halfway point at number 16, and we're going to move on to the Detroit Red Wings top prospect in Axel Sandin Pellikka, a favorite of mine offensively, and even though I don't think Detroit has any unbelievable top 10 prospect in this league, they have a great cupboard of solid pieces for the future. Axel Sandin Pellikka, to me, is the best one among them in terms of the offensive potential he has on the power play, the ability to quarterback a blue line. He's somebody that I think just has so much potential there. The goal scoring has been so good over the past couple of years too. He just brings so much smooth skating, so much smooth playmaking. He's somebody that I just love watching. Is going to be a fantastic power play piece and a fantastic offensive piece that I really do think Detroit needs on that offense and that defense full time. Now we go on to number 15 here, and starting us out in the 15th spot, we got another top Swedish prospect, this time with Jonathan Lekkerimäki of the Canucks system. Now, Lekkerimäki has had some of the biggest ups and downs of any prospect over the past couple of years. Senators, being somebody that was drafted a 15th overall by Vancouver, and afterwards having a really poor season in the Junior 20, the Allsvenskan and the World Juniors. But this last year, we were really able to see him turn on at the SHL level, getting 19 goals, 31 points in 46 games, being great at the World Juniors as well. I think there are going to be some pretty big growing pains in the AHL, getting involved in the pace, being able to really keep up speed-wise. But I think Lekkerimaki is going to be somebody that you can feed on the power play and really rely on for that goal-scoring ability. He's somebody that if you get the puck is going to find ways to score with it, and that's something that I wanted to see him involved in. He was somewhat of a one-dimensional goal scorer back in his draft year, but now I think that story has changed. Now we go on to number 14, and one of my favorites from this last 2024 draft in Iginla. To me, he's going to be so much fun to watch for that Utah team with how many great players they have around him. He's just going to be the exact type of glue guy that is going to bring so much to that top six. But you guys know, I've been a big fan of Iginla for a while now. Drafted, of course, 6th overall in this last draft. He had an incredible season with Kelowna, getting 84 points, 47 goals in 64 games, was great at the U18 World Juniors, great in the WHL playoffs. To me, what Iginla brings in terms of intensity, work ethic, maturity, the way he's able to use his body, use the stick handling, everything is just so compact already and pro ready, and the habits there are just to die for. There might be a little bit of an issue in terms of defensive play and in terms of actual top end talent, but I think in terms of the way he works, how smartly he works, Iginla is going to be a fan favorite in no time. Already is. Then we go on to number 13, another top CHL prospect here. On the defensive side, though, we're going to go to the Calgary Flames and go on to Zayne Parekh, who I'm a big fan of in terms of the offensive play and is one of the best examples of just pure confidence, pure offensive potential on this list. With Calgary, he's the exact type of player I think they needed on that defense long term. He's somebody that can quarterback a power play, but is so good at seeing the ice, being able to feed his teammates in any position offensively. The vision he has is incredible, and the passing ability in every spot in the offensive zone is just insane. It's blissful to watch. It's incredible to watch. And what he was able to do this last year in the OHL really speaks volumes to that. You, of course, have a great goal scoring ability too, and the ability to fire any puck possible, getting 33 goals this last year. I mean, offensively, there's not many misses in Parekh's game. I think in terms of transition ability and speed, there might be somewhat of an issue, but I think he'll be able to get past that eventually and be a top offensive D. Now, at number 12, next up, we go on to a player that has really improved over the past couple of years, was already a favorite for me, but is continuing to be a favorite for a lot of other folks in Gabe Perreault of the New York Rangers. What a find Perreault continues to be at 23rd overall. It's just incredible to see the progression in his game. He was somebody that I thought was a great complementary piece back in his draft year in the NTDP. Really was just able to put up so much production, otherworldly numbers, 132 points, 53 goals in 63 games of the U18 World Juniors was phenomenal. This last year, though, we saw him just continue that. With BC, he was again an incredible complementary piece, being so good at gluing any line together. 60 points, 41 assists in 36 games, and at the U20 World Juniors was just so good for the US as well. Every line he was a part of, every situation he was a part of, he just made the offensive game simpler and better. And I think that is the best part about Perreault's game. He's someone that can really fit in any situation, can play with your team's top players and maximize the results. But it's how smart he plays, it's how good he uses his body, and I think that drive that he has just aids to so much offensive potential there. I don't think he's going to be the main play driver. I don't think he's going to be somebody putting up 120 points in the NHL, but boy howdy is he's going to be a great player for your team, a great piece, and a great piece for the New York Rangers specifically. Now at number 11, just missing outside of the top 10, I got Brant Clark, another player that we talked about a lot on this channel. I mean, he's somebody that I think is just ready to break into the NHL, to get a major role with LA, and I think that will be the case this next year. But you could see what he's been able to do in the OHL, and this last year in the AHL, 46 points in 50 games as an AHLD is just incredible production. But to me, I think in Brant Clark's case, he's somebody that is just relentless in terms of his attack. He's always in attacking mode, always looking to get the puck out of the defensive zone, always looking to transition it forward. That's something that I think for LA specifically, they really do need. They need some electrifying play. They need some more pace. Brant Clark will bring that. But now we officially enter the top 10 and getting into the top tier of NHL prospects here. Next up, we got Berkly Catton of the Seattle Kraken. Now, even though I'm still a little bit weirded out by the drafting decision, they must have just gone best player available. And honestly, at 8th overall, I could absolutely see why. To me, he was one of the smarter offensive players in this last NHL draft. He's somebody that processes the game so well, always has his head on a swivel, and he's somebody that I think just with the vision he creates, the neutral zone pace that he provides is going to be just an electrifying player for Seattle. They already got a couple of great centers there in Beniers and Wright, which makes, again, the draft pick a little bit weird, but I think Catton could play all over the ice if he needs to. You can see what he's able to do with the Chiefs this last year, though. 116 points in 68 games. This guy can do so much in terms of high caliber offense, high caliber plays, and he's going to be a fun one for Seattle. Now we go on to number 9, and for Chicago, they would have had, of course, the number 1 spot if Bedard was still a prospect. Still, though, they have a pretty good top prospect in Artyom Levshunov, somebody that I was lower on compared to Chicago and compared to some people in the 2024 draft, but I still think the potential is massive with the physical play, the skating ability, the offensive possession that he can provide. He's somebody that I think has some great tools to build off. I still think is incredibly raw defensively, has some times where he can get completely beat and attack when he shouldn't be attacking, but I think there are a lot of good positive traits to build on with Levshunov, and him now signed on with Chicago, likely in the AHL this next year, is going to be interesting. There will be some growing pains, I do think, defensively, but I do think he will overcome those eventually and be a great defensive piece for the Blackhawks. Now at number 8, of course, we have to go on to one of my favorites on the list, automatically in Logan Stankoven. I mean, I've talked about him a billion times. You know my thoughts on Logan Stankoven. Of course I love him. But moving on to number 7, I guess we got a trifecta here of Central Division players. Next up, I got Zeev Buium of the Minnesota Wild. To me, Buium was the exact type of infusion that the Wild needed in their prospect pool. They needed somebody to play with Brock Faber long term, and they got the best gift humanly possible in Zeev Buium. He, to me, was the best defensive player of the 2024 draft in terms of speed, pace, and the quick decision-making offensively. He was brilliant at the U20 World Juniors and led Denver to an historic natty. He's somebody that was a big part of both of those teams and both of their wins, and to me, with how much he is able to collect himself, with how good of a player he is in the offensive zone, with how good his deception is all over the ice, Buium is going to be so much fun for Minnesota's D and is going to be exactly what the doctor ordered. But now we go just outside the top 5 to the Washington Capitals top prospect here, and I got to go with Ryan Leonard. In terms of raw dogness, Leonard might be the best out of any prospect on this list. He is so good at winning pucks, winning board battles, just getting any battle, any possession necessary to get results for his team. You combine that, of course, with a great goal scoring ability too, and Leonard is somebody that I think will be a special player for the Caps, and exactly what they needed in that top 6 too. So much effort, so much determination, so much goal scoring. Caps fans are going to love this guy. But now we officially enter the top 5. Next up, I got Cayden Lindstrom of the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think for a lot of people, Lindstrom might be lower. I'm not ranking these guys on who they are today. I'm ranking them on who I think they will be in the NHL, and Lindstrom is by far a raw project. He's somebody that will not be NHL ready, I think, for a couple of seasons at least, but in terms of potential, in terms of what he can bring goal scoring wise, with the skating, with the physical play he has, he's such a unique combo that I can't help but bet on him. I loved what he was able to do this last year at Medicine Hat when he was healthy, and I think this next year having a fully healthy WHL season will be very important for him, but man, he could be seriously fun with Columbus and another great centerman in their system. Now we move on to number 4. Next up, I got Cutter Gauthier of the Anaheim Ducks, another great top-end forward. In terms of power forwards, he's one of the best out there. He is just so good with the puck, so good with possession, driving up the ice with speed. That, to me, is the biggest strength in Cutter Gauthier's game, but you see what he's able to do with Boston College this last year. Just another dominant season, great at the World Juniors, and that was kind of an underperformance, him getting 12 points in 7 games. But I think for the Ducks, he's going to be a magical player, somebody that, of course, being traded from Philly to Anaheim is going to be a great piece for the Ducks in the future, and man, that top 6 just continues to look so scary. Now we go on to number 3 and number 2, and this is a debate that we have talked about a lot on this channel. We made a whole video on it if you guys want to watch. Number 3, I have Matvei Michkov. Number 2, I have Ivan Demidov. We talked about these guys so much, but I love them both. They're both going to be fantastic guys. And then, of course, that leaves us on to number 1. And at first place, we got Macklin Celebrini. The San Jose Sharks have the best top prospect in the league. That should come as no surprise, considering what Celebrini has done in his career, what he's been able to accomplish at the World Juniors, how good he was at BU, getting the Hobie Baker, being so influential for that team already. He's so complete, so good in almost every single area. I don't think there's going to be McDavid level talent there, but man, Celebrini Celebrini is going to be a fantastic captain, a fantastic presence, and a great hockey player that San Jose badly needed. But those are my top prospects from every single NHL team, ranked from worst all the way to the best. And I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. Comment down below what you guys agree, what you guys disagree with, and let me know what your rankings would end up looking like. And of course, make sure you guys share the video and click on this card for all my hockey prospect talk right in one playlist. And check out BetUS as well in the description down below if you guys haven't already. Thank you, of course, to BetUS for sponsoring today's video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great hockey day, and goodbye.